The distress beacon cut through the void like a scream. Arlen's cargo hauler, the Meridian, was 3 days from the nearest outpost when the signal reached her sensors. Most traders would have ignored it. Deep space was littered with traps. Pirates using false beacons to lure the unsympathetic or the foolish. But Arlen had never been good at ignoring screams, false or otherwise. She dropped out of FTL near a dying research vessel, its hull breached in a dozen places, atmosphere venting into the black. The scanner showed no life signs aboard, but the beacon persisted. Arlen suited up, mag-locked across the debris field, and cut her way inside. The research station had been studying Kelhari cubs, orphaned young from a species the galaxy had written off as extinct after their homeworld burned in a stellar flare. 3 of them huddled in an emergency pod, their crystalline eyes wide with terror, their scaled bodies trembling. They couldn't have been more than a few months old by human standards. The pod's life support was failing. Arlen didn't hesitate. She gathered them into her arms, their small claws digging into her suit, and carried them back to the Meridian. She had just finished securing them in the medbay when her proximity alarms shrieked. A warship had dropped from FTL, sleek, predatory, bearing the crimson markings of the Vor Collective. The communication channel crackled open before she could reach for it. Human vessel. The voice was a growl wrapped in silk, every word calculated to intimidate. You have retrieved our property. Transfer the Kelhari cubs immediately, and you may continue your insignificant journey. Arlen's jaw tightened. She glanced at the medbay monitor. The cubs had finally stopped shaking. One of them, the smallest, had fallen asleep against her supply crates. These aren't property, Arlen said, her voice cold. They're children. A pause. Then laughter, harsh and grating. I am Vor, Huntmaster of the Third Fleet. The Kelhari are prey species, human, weak, defective. Their world is ash, and we have claimed the survivors. They will serve the collective as labor, as subjects, as we see fit. You will surrender them, or I will take them from your wreckage. Arlen's hands moved across her console, routing power to shields, warming up weapons she'd sworn she'd never use again. The Meridian wasn't a warship. It was a hauler held together with optimism and improvised welds. But she'd been a soldier once before the cargo runs, before the quiet. Listen carefully, Vor, she said. Those cubs aren't going anywhere with you. Find another species to bully. Another pause, longer this time. When Vor spoke again, his amusement had curdled into something darker. You dare refuse a huntmaster? One human in a rusted shell? I could vaporize you where you drift. Maybe, Arlen admitted. She locked her weapons on the warship's engine manifolds. Not enough firepower to destroy it, but enough to cripple. But you'll be limping home through hostile space with a dead hyperdrive, and everyone will know a human in a rusted shell made you bleed. How does that look for a huntmaster? Silence stretched between them like a drawn blade. Arlen used those seconds. Her fingers danced across secondary systems, broadcasting the conversation on every open frequency she could reach. If she was going to die, the galaxy would know why. The collective prided itself on strength, on the image of invincibility. A story about a predator retreating from one human? That would spread like wildfire. You're bluffing, Vor hissed. Try me. The warship's weapons charged. Arlen's heart hammered against her ribs, but she didn't flinch. Behind her in the medbay, one of the cubs made a soft chirping sound. She thought of their crystalline eyes, the way the smallest had finally trusted enough to sleep. She'd been a soldier. She knew how to die standing. But Vor didn't fire. The weapons powered down. The warship's engines flared as it maneuvered away. Vor's voice returned, stripped of its confidence, raw with barely contained fury. This isn't over, human. The collective will remember Arlen of the Meridian. We will remember what you've stolen. I didn't steal anything, Arlen said quietly. I protected what was mine. The channel cut. The warship vanished into FTL, leaving Arlen alone with the stars and 3 sleeping cubs. The outpost at Kepler 7 didn't ask questions when Arlen arrived with unusual passengers. She registered them as crew. Unconventional, yes, but the frontier didn't care about technicalities. She sold half her cargo to buy proper life support systems, translators, nutrient supplements formulated for Kelhari biology. The cubs grew. They learned Galactic Standard by listening to Arlen's logs. The smallest, whom she'd named Trill, followed her everywhere, mimicking her movements, her speech patterns, her stubborn refusal to back down. Word spread. Other ships carrying Kelhari refugees began appearing at backwater stations, shepherded by human traders who decided that some things mattered more than profit margins. The collective sent ships to intercept them. They always retreated. Humans, the galaxy learned, were territorial about things they'd claimed as their own, and humans claimed fiercely. 6 months later, Arlen received a transmission. It was brief, encrypted with collective military codes someone had leaked to the resistance networks. Huntmaster Vor has been demoted, his fleet reassigned. The collective fears the humans now, not for their weapons but for their audacity, for their refusal to see prey where they see kin. Arlen deleted the message. In the cargo hold, Trill was teaching the others a human game she'd learned, something about hiding and seeking, about trust and discovery. Their laughter echoed through the Meridian's corridors like music. She'd never wanted to be a soldier again. But protecting her family, that she would do against predators, against empires, against the entire cold and uncaring void. The galaxy had learned something humanity had always known. You don't threaten someone's children and expect to walk away unchanged. Vor had called them prey. Arlen had called them kin, and in the end only one of those claims had mattered.